Benvenuti, signore, signore. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I am currently in the north of Italy, and as you can see behind me is the Italian Alps. So we're taking the kind of downturn in the markets, or the downtime in the markets is how I'm looking at it, as exactly that, a time to sort of touch some grass, chill out a little bit, and prepare for what's to come. And I still do believe that the crypto space as a whole is only really in the first innings of a very long journey that is going to see it fundamentally transform most of the major industries that we currently know and interact with today in our daily lives, whether that be the internet itself, whether that be finance. We know there's an entire overhaul of the entire financial system that blockchain is innovating, whether that be things like social medias, whether that be things like, supply chains, all of this kind of stuff, decentralized Googles. Crypto is really innovating and fundamentally changing, and we think that there's a lot of value that is still to be added to it as a result of that. So that the broad trajectory of this industry is unbelievable, and it's something to be nothing short of excited about. However, the sentiment in the space right now is pretty abysmal, and of course tomorrow we have the US election. This is a key event for the cryptocurrency space, and we're going to break this video into two parts. The first part, I really want to just cover what I spoke about in yesterday's daily market update, where I looked at Google Trends as a reflection for the sentiment and the retail participation in the cryptocurrency space right now. It's non-existent. In fact, it's even lower than the FTX crash, which of course drove people into despair. We're there right now, and I'm sure many of you are feeling that in regards to the altcoin space. If you overlay a chart of Google Trends as it relates to crypto generally, it very much looks like most of the altcoin charts out there. However, there's good and bad news in this. The bad news is, of course, there's no interest right now. The good news is it will come. And actually, as an investor, you want to be interested in a technological, transformative technology at a point when no one else is. That's where you make your money. You don't want to be FOMOing in at the top of a market when the vast majority of retail will turn up. In fact, if you're positioned now, you're likely going to be one of those people that are dumping their bags on top of that late to the party, hype-driven, low foresight retail participation that typically shows up at the end of every single market. We're nowhere near that yet, and there's a great uptrend that we are on the cusp of, in my opinion. So, sentiment right now in the crypto space, and one of the best barometers for this is, of course, Google Trends. Where do people go? Google is the largest search engine in the world. Where do people go to look up information? It's Google. Where do people go to look up crypto? It's Google. And right now, it's pretty much at record lows for the crypto space as a whole. And actually, Bitcoin itself isn't that far off. And the question you may be asking, well, why is Bitcoin around all-time highs, but the current altcoin market isn't? Well, that's because we know that it's not retail driving Bitcoin and some of the other altcoins out there, like Solana, which up until Ethereum's ETF saw the most inflows in regards to exchange-traded products. It's institutional investors through ETFs that are ultimately loading up on Bitcoin right now and loading up on some altcoins, but they don't typically partake, largely because they can't, in the broader altcoin sector. This is going to change. We already see Grayscale Digital Large Cap Fund, and we have a technical target for this that sees it do about an 8x, just like we were predicting with GBTC and also GETH, both of those targets met. So Grayscale's Digital Large Cap Fund has now been filed to be converted into an ETF, just like we saw with Grayscale's Bitcoin Trust and, of course, the Ethereum Trust. This is ultimately, I believe, going to be a gateway for institutions which have largely driven the market thus far to actually do so. And they'll likely front-run retail in much the same way that they are with Bitcoin right now. Retail isn't here. You can see that in Google Trends. The bad news is exactly that. They're not here. The good news is they will come, and they will come for the altcoin sector. And why will they come for the altcoin sector? Because retail wants to get rich. It's the same reason that retail will show up for the altcoin space that they showed up in America for the gold rush. We will see that repeat again. And actually, cyclically, if you look at where Bitcoin dominance is at and the time it takes to roll, there's nothing different with this cycle in regards to the prior ones. There really isn't in regards to the length of time post-halving Bitcoin dominance takes to roll. In fact, we've still got a little bit of time in regards to the length of time it took for the last one to take place and that rolling of Bitcoin dominance to happen and alt season really to start. We're very much on schedule. So the sentiment right now in the crypto space is very dull. We notice it as somebody that produces content on the cryptocurrency space. We love to do it. We're not going anywhere, by the way. Don't worry, guys. We're seeing lots of sort of other people on YouTube really capitulate, talk about how the space is dead. I would argue the opposite. Okay, from a retail participation point of view, that might be the case, but from things actually happening in this space and the evolution of it taking place, that couldn't be further from the truth. Guys, there's so much happening. The entire monetary system is being overhauled, and some of the public blockchains that we talk about on this channel are going to play a role in the future financial system. Now, we mentioned at the start of the video, there's a big event taking place tomorrow. Of course, I am referring to the US election. And a lot of people are worried about this. I think from the crypto space, many are worried about Harris winning and the negative repercussions that might have on the space, as certainly her regime has enabled the tyrannical Gensler. However, I think, in my opinion, personally, I'm more bullish on Trump in regards to the space as a whole. I think they both came out on the run-up to this election and really tried to appeal to the crypto voter. Trump, I would argue, has done that to more of a degree, and ultimately is going to be significantly more bullish for the industry as a whole. However, if you look at Harris's regime, look at how the markets have done under it. And that's because they are very socialist in many aspects, and they ultimately believe in continuing government spending. And there's only one way the fiat debt system is going, and that's proliferation. It's no coincidence that Bitcoin came about in 2008 when the cracks really started to show. And boy, oh boy, look at how accurate Bitcoin has been since. And there's going to be a continuation of that, no matter who wins, no matter whether it's Trump or Camilla. And remember that as a big backdrop to why the markets are going to continue to go up. All markets, and Bitcoin to a hyper degree, are essentially a short currency trade. We've always said the Nikkei is a short yen trade. And you saw the kind of yin and yang of that with, of course, the Japanese carry trade. They up their interest rate, it increases the cost of the yen and strengthens it. You saw one of the biggest drops in the Nikkei, one of the biggest daily drops on record. So whichever one wins, and I'm torn. My personal preference, of course, we've been very vocal about it. That doesn't mean I hate you, by the way, or I've got anything against you if you're voting the other way. And then, of course, even if the other one does win, I think both outcomes are ultimately bullish for the markets and likely going to be bullish for the crypto space. The dollar right now is in crisis. It needs innovation. That innovation is going to come in the forms of stable coins. Those stable coins are going to be propagated on public blockchains. They're ultimately going to enable all of that. Both of them are very much for the United States and all about the dollar, whether it's Trump or Harris. And ultimately, either one winning, I think, is bullish. Again, I think Trump more so bullish. We look at Bitcoin miners. We're expecting spectacular things. If you want to become a Patreon, guys, now's a good time to be taking a look at some of those mining stocks that we have. But ultimately, I think actually Bitcoin is increasingly becoming a matter of national security, and both of them are going to have to defend that. So just some comments on it. We'll fill you all in regards to what happens. Of course, I'm not American. People say, well, you can't comment on the election because you're not American. It's like asking a brain surgeon not to, or a heart surgeon not to operate on you because you asked him if he too had a heart attack and he said no. If you get that analogy, ultimately either one I think is ultimately going to propagate the markets and continue them. One more bullish than the other. Don't panic about it too much. It's likely going to be volatility around it. But then if you look at election cycles, typically markets do well post. We ultimately think that's going to be the case once again today. But we'll fill you in on that in more detail tomorrow. So don't be too concerned about that. It is a key event. If you're an American citizen, of course, this is very concerning to you. I'm not saying don't be concerned about the election from that point of view. I'm saying more from a market point of view. Actually, crypto as well, if you look at the likes of Chris Larson, he's given 100 million XRP to the Harris campaign. And a lot of his organization are probably more so on the other party, and that's about hedging their bets. I can't quite call this. I don't know particularly what way it's going to go. I think it's very, very tight in my opinion. Again, I've got my personal opinions that will try and leave as much out of this video as possible. I just want to stress that either one is ultimately going to continue to propagate this industry. I think Gary Gensler, by the way, is gone regardless of who wins. So do prepare for that. It's going to be a major event. Some of the polls really swinging at the moment. We'll keep you up to date on it. And of course, we'll keep you up to date, more importantly for us on this channel, as cryptocurrencies investors, on the markets. So guys, I'm going to love and leave you on that. We are going to be away and we'll show you some of the sites that we're seeing, some of the beautiful places in Italy. Also, we'll be in some of the other sort of European countries. We'll share all that with you. And then, of course, we are going to a conference at the end of this week, and hopefully we can get you some great clips from then. It's our job to keep you guys motivated on what is a life-changing opportunity at a time when nobody else cares about it. That's the time you want to be grabbing the bull by the horns and taking advantage. That's it from me, guys. I'll see you all in the next one.